Rimuru the Violet Primordial. A Legend Reborn, by NoruSensei. CH04EP3. Beauty Pageant, revealing the chairwoman, their popularity. Ultima Pav. As the club fair ended, Mazari and I went out to try this popular cafe called Palette. As we both entered inside, we were instantly surrounded by students who saw our performance earlier. Surprisingly, all of them led as though the long line to order. I declined it at first, but then they insisted, so I took their offer. As Mazari and I had finished ordering our drinks and snacks, we chose a table that has a beautiful view outside. As we took our seat, we began to eat. But then, someone called us out. "Fufufu, what a coincidence to run you here, Ultima and Mazari," said Irisu as she smiles. "What a coincidence indeed, Irisu," I said as I gave a smile on my own. "Please take a seat with us, Irisu-sama," said Mazari. "Why thank you," she said as she took a seat beside Mazari. She then signaled Kamuro-san to also take a seat with us. She reluctantly agreed and sat beside me. "So, Irisu, care to explain why Kamuro-san is kinda scared but at the same time slightly glaring at you when you called her?" I asked as I smirked. Irisu also returned that smirk of mine. "Fufufufu, well you see, I had caught Kamuro-san shoplifting some beers earlier. So I just thought that she would be perfect as my legs and also had secured us some loyal ally," Irisu explained. "I see. Now then, Kamuro-san," I said as I looked at her with serious expression. "Did you know the consequences of what had you done if that is someone from other class, or other students, even teachers and school staff, had caught you doing it?" I asked her in a cold and authoritarian voice as I glared at her. From that look and tone of my voice alone, she was scared to her very core. She couldn't say anything nor do something from the pressure I'm giving her. I could see that she was shaking due to her being frightened by my stare and voice. "It was a good thing that Irisu was the one who caught you doing it. Listen well, you'll have to do anything to atone for that sin. Got it?" I said with my every cold and authoritarian voice as I glared at her more. "Ultima, you don't have to scare her that much. I know she is already reflecting her actions for sure. Am I right, Kamuro-san?" said and asked Irisu. Hi. "I'm terribly sorry for what I have done," she said so formally and stiff as she bowed her head low. I then noticed that there were some students are looking at us. Some had stars and hearts on their eyes, some were flinching in fear. But most had admiration and respect to me. Are they serious? Oh well, this works for me just fine. After all, I don't want to cause fear into them just yet. Then if you really understand, just don't do it again, I said as I smiled. Then Irisu ordered Kamuro-san to order her some hot tea and some sandwiches. To which she was slightly irritated, but she has no choice but to do it. Then she hurriedly left the table and went in line to the counter. As I was about to take another sip on my tea, someone approached us. It was Katsuragi-kun and his underling Tatsuka Yahiko-kun. "Greetings, Mishika-san." Katsuragi greeted. "What is it, Katsuragi-kun?" I asked. "May I please talk to you alone for a bit?" he asked. "Fufufu, and why is that, Katsuragi?" Irisu asked. "It's none of your business, Sakayanagi," Tatsuka hissed. "Tatsuka, let me handle it. But please, Mishika-san, just a short moment of your time," Katsuragi pled. Fine," I said as I stood up and walked outside of the Palette Cafe. Katsuragi and Tatsuka followed soon after. Then as I stopped, I turned 180 degrees to face them. Of course I'm looking them in a serious gaze. "What is that you want to talk to me, Katsuragi-kun?" I asked. "See, could you please give me a chance to prove myself to you?" he pleaded as he bowed his head. "Please consider him, Mishika-sama." Tatsuka also lowered his head. Interesting, so Katsuragi didn't want to back down just like that. "And what could that be?" I asked, playing dumb. Please let me prove that I'm more capable as your second than Sakayanagi," Katsuragi pled. "Fine then, I'll give you a chance. But do remember that Sakayanagi is already proving herself to me," I said to them. The both of them then raised their head. I could see that Tatsuka was looking at Irisu with bitter expression as Katsuragi was looking rather challenged. "I understand, Mishika-san. I'll definitely prove myself to you that I'm more worthy than Sakayanagi," he said. Then he bowed again lowly as he left together with his underling. I sighed as I went back inside the cafe. As I went back inside, Kamuro-san was also there with Arisu's order. Meanwhile, she just have herself some coffee. I then took a seat and began taking a bite into my cookie. "Welcome back, Ultima. What did Katsuragi-kun ask you?" asked Arisu curiously. "He just asked me to let him prove himself to me that he more suitable as the second class A leader than you," I said as I took a sip of my already cold tea. "Fufu, I see. So he didn't intend to give up, huh? Interesting indeed. So, I believe you'll be staying neutral for now?" she asked with a smirk as she saw through me. "Not quite, you're already improving yourself to me that you're more capable than him. But I wanted to see how well did he intend to prove himself to me," I said as I returned her smirk. Then we enjoyed our dine and talked more for some time before we decided to all of us return to the dormitory. As all of us were inside the elevator, I was quite surprised that they were on the 8th floor also. As the elevator door opened, we all left the elevator and Mazari and Kion's room was already in sight. I then learned that Arisu's room was 804, just near Kion's room. Kamuro-san's room was on 809. All of us said our goodbyes, then Mazari and I went inside in our rooms. As I got inside of my room, I opened the lights and removed my outdoor shoes. As I successfully removed my shoes, I then wore my slippers as I walked further inside my room and placed the bag on the couch and sat beside it. I then reached on my phone and apparently I got a message from Horikita-senpai. "Open tortoise shell bracket. Congratulations on your performance earlier with Mazari and Kion. Here is 50,000 private points for earlier's music performance. Also, we're going to take care of the beauty pageant on Friday. But let me ask you this, do you intend to attend as a contestant, judge, or host? Let me know once you had read this message. Close tortoise shell bracket." Then I replied to Horikita-senpai saying that he did his speech well and I said that I'll be one of the contestant of this beauty pageant. I also told him to let Kion and Mazari as its hosts for the pageant. I then sent the message and checked my private points. It was currently on 648,978 private points. As for my contacts, I got Mazari, Horikita-senpai, Tachibana-senpai, Arisu, Kion, Kamuro, and of course in my secret contacts, Vice Chairman Sakayanagi, the acting chairwoman Shimofuji, and some future student assistant homeroom teachers. After some time, I got a message from Kion. It was basically her complaining as why haven't I told her that she would become the second vice president of the student council and asked what is my plan. I laughed at this for a bit as I remembered from childhood that I also did some similar things to her. I then apologized saying that she was in Germany and I can't contact her from school. After some exchanges of text messages, funny enough that she could just come over to my room. I placed my phone down and removed my clothes to take a bath. Then I did my usual routine to take care of my skin and face. As usual, I used 3 towels to wipe myself. Then after that, I wore my favorite pajamas and lay down on my bed. I'm too excited on Friday about the beauty pageant. As I was thinking about their reactions about when I was revealed as the first vice president of the student council, I got a text from surprisingly the acting chairwoman. It said that she will be one of the judge among with Chabashira-sensei, Vice Chairman Sakayanagi, Horikita-senpai, and one of my maids that I recently made as the acting chairwoman's secretary and one of the student assistant homeroom teacher. Just what is she planning? I haven't told to make her move yet. But I guess this is also for the best, I guess. I'll give this reveal, or should I say her first introduction in this school as the owner and chairwoman of ANHS. Will someone figure out that I'm actually the real owner and chairwoman? Then That will be my small hint for all of the students here. Then I replied to her saying that I'll agree. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Third POV. Friday. It was almost as usual for the rest of the classes except for Class A and D. Katsuragi openly challenged Arisu for the second leader's position inside the classroom after his meeting and pleading with Ultima yesterday. Which Arisu smiled, agreed to it. The one who will judge them is of course Ultima herself. And the main acknowledgement of this challenge was Kion, as she's the second vice president of the student council. Thursday yesterday, Ultima finally gave hint about the S system but not the competition yet. She then pointed the camera to which everyone surprised except for Arisu, Mazari, Kion, Katsuragi and some of his faction. Kion's position in the matter was neutral, same with Ultima and Mazari. Meanwhile in Class D, Ayanokoji noticed that the attitude of his classmates were getting worse each day. Horikita slightly recovered from the club fair. He was thinking if he should help the class now or not. But then he decided that he will need Horikita and him to move. Since that club fair, Ayanokoji's popularity increased as he is now well known in his class and was asked if he was still hiding something. Of course he denied it at first, but some are not believing it. Especially Horikita, Kushida, Matsushita, Koenji, and Hasebe. He wanted a peaceful life, but then it was now impossible due to that club fair music performance. He was really suspicious on the individuals Mishika Ultima, Midorita Mazari, and Ayanokoji Kion. Now, he is thinking if he should still hold back or not. Who knows? Maybe he just need a deciding factor for him to either hold back or not. Last Wednesday Chabashira announced to them that the student council will arrange a beauty pageant. There was some debates who will be their class candidates, but in the end it was Matsushita Chiaki and Karuizawa K. As for Class C, their candidates are Yabu Nanami and Shina Hiyori, who was forced. As for Class B, their chosen candidates are Ichino's Honami, who was mostly chosen by her classmates, and Minamakata Kozu. Finally, for Class A's candidates are Mishika Ultima and Kumaro Masumi, who was forced by Arisu. Now it was Friday. Today is the day where the beauty pageant proposed by Ultima will happen today. It will have 4 rounds, in their regular school uniform, swimsuits, causal clothing and kimono, and a bonus round in their dress. The hosts for this event are Ayanokoji Kion and Midorita Mazari. Of course all students from first year only are present. The hosts are wearing dresses for this one. Ladies and gentlemen, the beauty pageant will start shortly. Please take your seats and make sure to have some light snacks. I will introduce myself for those who is for the first time seeing me. I'm Midorita Mazari from Class 1A, Student Council First Vice President's Secretary, said Mazari. Then most students were surprised by this. They didn't know yet who is this first Vice President of the Student Council. Yet there is already its Secretary. They're expecting if they will know who is this first Vice President and Horikita Manabu's successor. Most are also excited to meet this Student Council First Vice President. And I'm your second Vice President of the Student Council, also from Class 1A. Ayanokoji Kion, said Kion. We're your hosts for today's beauty pageant. We will start the program by introducing our judges, they both said at the same time. There are crowds cheering in excitement for different types of reasons. It was either for perverted or for the girl's final ranking to be the most beautiful lady among the first year. As explained by our homeroom teachers, the winning candidate from that class will receive 100,000 private points. Of course that is for the crowned most beautiful, said Mazari in excitement to excite the crowd. That's right, Mazari. As for the second most beautiful, will receive 50,000 private points. Lastly, for the third most beautiful will receive 25,000 private points, said Kion. Well then, let's get going to introduce the judges, Mazari said as a judge walked towards to the judging table. Our first judge is none other than our student council president, Horikita Manabu. Mazari then introduced Manabu as one of the judge. Manabu then went to the judging area and just stood where his name is. Then the next judge appeared. Next one. She is currently Class 1D's homeroom teacher, Chabashira Sensei. Kion then introduced Chabashira as she walked elegantly towards the judging area. Then she was where her seat is next to Manabu. Next, he was once the owner of this school, but he is now working as the vice chairman. Please welcome our third judge, Sakayanagi Narumori-sama. Mazari introduced Narumori as he then walks with respect and authority within him as he then arrived to the judging area and his seat where he will be beside Chabashira. Now as for the next one, she is the newest teaching staff here in ANHS. She is also a very capable maid and the secretary of our new owner and chairwoman despite her young age. Please welcome our fourth judge, Himeji Shirayuki-sama. Kion introduced the fourth judge and started walking elegantly towards the judging area. Most students were looking at her beauty, and you can see that she is indeed wearing a maid uniform and she was almost around the same age as them. As she arrived at her seat in the judging area, she was near the vice chairman. Now then, as for our final judge, she is from one of the most powerful families here in Japan. She also the new owner and chairwoman of ANHS. Please welcome our fifth and final judge, Chairwoman Shimofuji Velzard-sama. Mazari introduced Velzard. As her name was called, she walked very elegantly and ladylike as she walks towards the judging area. All students and the two other judges were stunned to see her. Rather, this was their first time meeting the very owner and chairwoman of the school. The maid and secretary, Himeji Shirayuki, was also their first time, but not for Vice Chairman Sakayanagi Narumori. As for all students, it was their first time seeing the Vice Chairman, the owner and chairwoman's maid and secretary, but also the chairwoman herself. She is a judge. Most importantly, she's the head of the Shimofuji family, one of the most well-known figure and families in Japan. Now most students are praying for all of the candidates in this beauty pageant. Now that all judges are present, please take your seats, said Kion. Then all of the judges took their seats. There are some glass for each judges and a refilling big 1-liter glass of water for the judges to refill their glasses. Say, Mazari, do you think all of our candidates from different classes are excited and ready for today's beauty pageant? Kion asked a question. Hi, each one of them are ready. Shall we start to the event proper? Mazari answered the question and returned a question to Kion. Hi. Now then, let's start to the event proper. First round will be of course in their school uniforms. Will they be able to bring their own charms and beauty? What do you think, Mazari? Asked Kion. That will depends on the candidates, Kion. Then, shall we start calling each candidates? I'll start first. In her bio she said that she is from a rather famous family. She also knows a bit about fashion and confident about her beauty. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first candidate, Matsushita Chiaki from Class 1D. Let's give her a warm of applause. Mazari announced as some people from other classes started to clap their hands and most of the support were from Class 1D. Then Chiaki came on stage wearing her uniform. Yes, the first round is how they carry the school uniform. Why? Ultima had thought about promoting the school more aside from its 100% employment ANC college acceptances rate, but also its beauty of its students wearing the uniform. Of course most students were looking either at her beautiful face or her breast. But as she walks elegantly towards the prepared microphone stand, she did some cute poses before finally standing in the mic stand. Good day to all, I'm the first candidate from Class 1D. Matsushita Chiaki. When you going to select as the most beautiful girl among the first year, then remember my name, again, I'm Matsushita Chiaki, representing Class 1D. Thank you, she said as she slightly bowed her head. Then she elegantly walked towards her spot where she will be standing. What a warm start. Now then, please welcome our second candidate, the Gyaru beauty who is confident in her fashion taste, Karuizawa Kei, also from Class 1D. Kion then introduced the next candidate. As Kei was called, she had her usual look when we was in classes. She walks elegantly and beautifully towards the mic stand. As she stopped walking and was standing in front of the mic stand, she then began to smile. Etta. Hello everyone, Kei said first to the crowd as she waves her hand. Most students shouted came from Class 1D and most are also waving back. I'm Karuizawa Kei, as our host had said. I'm confident in my fashion sense and beauty. Together with Matsushita-chan, I'm also representing Class 1D, she said as she slightly bowed her head. Then she went near Chiaki who was smiling at her and both are now standing in their assigned standing point. Next candidate, please come on stage, said Mazari as she gave the signal for the next candidate to enter on stage. That said candidate then entered on stage. She then walks with elegance and confidence towards the mic stand. As she arrived and standing there, she gave her smile and began to speak. Good day everyone. I'm proudly representing Class 1C. My name is Nanami Yabu. I hope that you'll pick me as the most beautiful girl amongst the first year. That would be all, thank you, she said as she bowed her head with a smile. Then as usual she went where Chiaki and Kei are standing at while the crowd are clapping their hands. What an introduction. Well then, next candidate, please show yourself, said Kion as the next candidate walked a bit shyly but nonetheless walking cutely towards the mic stand. Most students and judges were looking at the girl who was cutely innocent yet beautiful. Her shyness had struck many hearts of most male students. Meanwhile some girls are fangirling at her and some had awakened their older sister and maternal instincts. But no one can deny despite her cute size and face, she also had a developed body. I'm Shina Hayori, representing Class 1C together with Nanami-san. My hobbies are reading books and tea making. That would be all, thank you, she said in embarrassment and shyness as she slightly bowed her head as she cutely make way to the rest of the candidates. What a cute entrance by Shina-san. Well then, let's move on and welcome the next candidate, Misery said as the next candidate walks with confidence towards the mic stand. After some time, she first bowed her head and smiled at the crowd. You can hear the cheers from her class saying to do her best. Good morning everyone, I'm here standing in front of you to represent our class. I'm Minamakata Kozu from Class 1B. I'm not particularly studious, but I'm pretty athletic. That would be all, thank you. As she ended her introduction she slightly bowed her head and crowds mostly from Class 1B gave her a round of applause as she walks towards the rest of the candidates. Wow, another beautiful girl was seen. I'm getting more excited to see the rest of the candidates. Speaking of which, next candidate in line, please show yourself, said Kion as the next candidate starts to walk with slight shyness in her but then few seconds later had gained her confidence and started to walk more elegantly and confident. Most all of the students were stunned in her beautiful figure and looks. Class 1B are cheering at her saying, Class Rep, repeatedly. This makes her more embarrassed but nonetheless arrived to the mic stand. A pleasant day to my fellow first-year students. Also a pleasant day to our dear judges. I'm proudly representing our class. I'm Ichino's Honami, class representative and currently a candidate for Class 1B together with Minamakata-san. We do hope that which either of us you choose, we would appreciate it, that would be all, thank you. As Honami elegantly bowed her head most the crowds are now cheering, Honami, repeatedly. Then as the same of the rest of the candidates she was standing to her respective place. That was one of the hottest welcome to a candidate today. Will the next candidate be able to do the same? Let's find out, said Mizari as the next candidate in question walked with full confidence and elegance with her looks like a model. Her body was matured for her age, the proportion of her body and face were beautiful. It can rival Honami, Hiyori and Chiaki's beauty itself. As she stands in front of the crowd many were cheering for her mostly from Class 1A. She closed her eyes for a second and took a breath before opening them again and speak. Greetings to all. I'm Kamuro Masumi. Representing Class 1A, I'm confident in my beauty and knowledge. That would be all, thank you. She slightly bowed as she went towards the rest of the candidates. The crowd were giving her a warm round of applause and cheering as she walks towards the other candidates. Whoa! We have another beauty that is different from the rest. What an exciting event it really is today. Now then, for the final but not the least candidate for today. She is the first Student Council Vice President and Student Council President Horikita Manabu Senpai's chosen successor. Please walk on stage, Mishika Ultima. Kion made that grand introduction for the final candidate. Then Ultima was in sight. She was walking confidently, elegantly, perfectly, and beautifully as she went towards the mic stand. Meanwhile, most students present were shocked, surprised and excited. They finally saw the Student Council President's chosen successor. In front of their eyes, they admire her beauty, body, and cuteness. All of them were speechless both due to her beauty and the revelation to them just now. Then there was silence present among all students. But then, that silence was broken when someone shouted, Mishika-sama. Mishika-sama, repeatedly. Then the rest of the students no matter from what class they are started doing the same due to their admiration, respect, and mostly was caught in her charms. They cheered at her as she makes some poses and waved to them. But amongst them, there are certain individual who was not that shocked due she already connected the dots. It was Arisu. She figured out that if Mizari was the student council's first vice president's secretary, then it must be Ultima herself that she is working for. Another individual was so shocked to the very core that her brother had chosen a random girl to be his successor. In other terms, they were greatly recognized by her own brother who she admired and wanting to take the steps the same as her own brother. Yes, it was Horikita Suzune who was in crisis. First it was the girl who has the last name as Kiyotaka, which was Ayanokoji Kion as the second vice president of the student council. Now this woman named Mishika Ultima was just revealed as the first vice president of the student council and the chosen successor by his brother. Not just that, the Mishika family is the Horikita family's head family, making Suzune and Manabu related as fifth cousins. Meanwhile, the chairwoman and owner of the school which was Shimofuji Velzard was their distant aunt. Another, the Tachibana family is one of the main families under the Mishika family, making Akane the older third cousin of Ultima. As for the Horikita siblings as the 8th cousins. But of course both Manabu and Horikita together with Akane didn't knew about this. Anyway, back to the main story. Suzune cannot accept this quite easily. She is jealous on Kione, Mizari, but mostly on Ultima. Kiyotaka, who noticed that Suzune was staring differently on the new first vice president of the student council, pinched her to get her back to her senses. Good morning and a pleasant day to all. I'm the last candidate who is representing Class 1A together with Rimuru. As you know from the introduction made by our host, Ayanokoji Kione, the second vice president of the student council. I'm the first vice president of the student council, and the student council president and today's judge. Horikita Manabu Senpai's chosen successor. My name is Mishika Ultima. Most of you probably know me or at least heard my last name. I'm confident in my intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, skills, and most importantly leadership. This will be my introduction, thank you, she said with authority, aura that surpassed Manabu himself, and a smile in the end as she slightly bowed her head and made a pretty big smile on her face. All, as in all of them, clapped and cheered her name repeatedly as she made her way with the rest of the candidates. As all of the candidates are completed, Mizari then announced to all that it was time for the first question will be asked by a judge. The question given by Himeji Shirayuki was, what is your unforgettable trait that will be remembered by all when they talked about you? One by one, all of the candidates answered the question. As they all finished answering, it was time for the swimsuit theme. Then, the audience were given a 30-minute break. Among the talk of the first years where they were really surprised, especially Class 1A. Arisu meanwhile was not surprised by it, but she was greatly happy for them. Kione, Mizari were also on the talks on they think as one of the most beautiful girls. Most students were finding a hard time who will be the most beautiful girl among the first-year students, but all were sure that it will be tied by Mishika, Ichinos, Shina, Matsushita, and Kamuro. Of course the perverted boys are excited for the swimsuit round as they will see their bodies. Then 30 minutes had passed and the event continues. It was already the swimsuit round, most of the boys and girls were waiting for. It was the same arrangement as the first one, from Class 1D to Class 1A. What a bold swimsuit from Karuizawa, said Kione as Kei walks around the stage before going back before where she began and left. A cute swimsuit style by Matsushita, said Mizari as Chiaki did the same with Kei. As for Yabu's swimsuit, it consists of normal two-piece swimsuit that suits her. Next, Shina Hiyori, said Mizari as Hiyori shyly walked around the stage. As for Manamakata Kozu's swimsuit, it was a one-piece swimsuit that suits her perfectly. Next, one of the most waited, Ichino's Honami, said Mizari as Honami walks around with her chosen swimsuit looking embarrassed. Most boys were looking at her body, mostly at her boobs. Next is from Class 1 to 1A, also one of the most awaited girls, Kamuro Masumi. Kione said it as energetic as she could as Masumi walked elegantly and confidently in her chosen swimsuits, which was a two-piece that also matches her hair color. As for our first vice president of the student council, and last candidate, Mishika Ultima-sama, said Mizari as Ultima walks perfectly, elegantly, and confidently of the swimsuit of her choice. All students, even the judges, were looking at her. Most of the students were mesmerized by her beauty, no matter the gender. Then as she finally ended her walk, it was finally for the next part of the event, which was casual clothing. Time skip. Final results. Looks like the final results from the judges are here, said Kione as she holds the envelope. That's good. They were waiting to know who will be crowned as the most beautiful girl among the first year, said Mizari. Well then, Mizari, before I read the results, there is another envelope that was from the students. You have it, right? Asked Kione. That's right. As you can see here, we also have some special mentions in different classes. Of course, Depita not being here on the contest itself, if your name is mentioned as the nominated special mention as beautiful, then you'll receive 10,000 private points. Mizari revealed. Then most students were hyped for it. For Class 1A, the special mentions are Ayanokoji Kione, Midorita Mizari, which is me, and finally, Sakayanagi Arisu. Now then, Arisu-sama, please come here on stage with us. Mizari announced as she was slightly blushing, and Kione was surprised by this. Arisu then went on stage and faced the crowd. Of course most of the student D from class 1A were clapping at her. There are students from other classes also joined in. Now then, as for class 1B. There are 4 mentions, they are Kabashi Yumi, Akamura Meiko, Himeno Yuki, and Shiranami Chihiro. Please come on stage. Mizari then revealed the special mentions for class 1B. Then few minutes all of the called individuals are on stage. Next is from class 1C. There are also 4 individuals, the names are Manaba Shiho, Nishino Takeko, Yamashita Sake, and Ibuki Mio. Please come on stage. Mizari then announced the special mentions for class 1C. After few minutes all of the called special mentions were present on stage. Lastly, from class 1D. For the called individuals please come on stage. Hasebe Haruka, Horikita Suzune, Sato Maya, Morinene, Inagashira Kokura, and Kushida Kikyu. Mizari said those special mentions for class 1D. Few minutes later, they were all present on stage. All of you here in front of us are the special mentions that are not here for today's event. Since your classmates recognize your beauty, you'll be receiving 10,000 private points, said Velzard. Then all of them bowed their heads as they were given a round of applause. Then all of them went back to their own seats. Finally, it's time for me to reveal the judge's decision, who will be crowned as the most beautiful girl amongst the first year. Well then, I shall open the envelope, Kion said as she opened the envelope. The chosen most beautiful girl among the first year is Mishika Ultima and Shina Hiyori. It was a 100% tie to both of them. Hence they'll be known and crowned as the first most beautiful girl among the first year, Kion announced. All of the students were surprised but at the same time proud. They all clapped their hands as both Ultima and Hiyori were crowned by Velzard. Next, for the second most beautiful girl among the first year is Ichino's Honami, Kamuro Masumi, Matsushita Chiaki and Karuizawa Kei, Kion announced. There are a lot of surprises as they were all tied at second place. Then they were all crowned by Vice Chairman Sakayanagi Narumori. And finally, the third most beautiful girl among the first year is Manamakata Kozu and Nanami Yabu, announced Kion. Of course it was expected that it would be one of the two but it was a surprise that they actually tied also. The one who crowned them was Himeji Shirayuki. As the event ends there are many students saying congratulations to them as they all did their best. All classes were proud for their chosen and special classmates mentioned. Then as weeks went by, it was almost the 1st of May. The hottest topics were Ultima, Hiyori, and the rest of those girls who were mentioned and tied to second and third place. But there are among in class 1D that is a hot talk. Ainokoji Kiyotaka reveals his skills, intelligence, and about the cameras around the classroom. It was a hot talk among class 1D. But of course, Ultima had already made some moves inside of each class. Ultima knows everything what is happening from class B to class D. She smirks as she anticipates their reactions on May 1st. Now that most students now know that Ultima is the Student Council's first vice president, and also Student Council President Horikita Manabu's successor, she gained mostly admiration and respect of most of the first year and third year students. As for the second year, it was mixed. Another was the popularity of the 2 new student assistant homeroom teachers and 2 new assistant homeroom teachers. No worries, those stories will be told in the next chapter. The events that will lead near May 1st and May 1st itself will have to wait. April 8th. Second week of school. The students of each class were surprised to see that the usual homeroom teacher is not there but a new face is present. A pleasant day to you, students. I'm your student assistant homeroom teacher and your student teacher in mathematics with your teacher in that subject Sakagami Sensei. My name is Himeji Shirayuki. Call me as Himeji Sensei from now on. You already know me from last week's beauty pageant as one of the judge and the owner chairwoman of this school, Velzard Sama. Here are my sets of schedules on which day will I be teaching you, said Himeji as she projects it. On class 1B. Yo, everyone. I'm your student assistant homeroom and your student teacher in science and technology from today along with Hoshinomiya Sensei. Remember my name well, I'm Shinohara Hiroto. Call me Shinohara Sensei. Hope that we get along for the next 3 years. Here are the lists of schedules that I'll be teaching this class, he said as he flashed a projector. On class 1C, good day to all. I'm your assistant homeroom teacher and your teacher in Japanese history from today along with Chabashira-sensei, by Mongfa. Don't underestimate me as I'm a woman. Who dare underestimate me will be immediately suspended, or worse expelled. Call me Mongfa-sensei. Now then, I shall project you the schedules on when I'll be teaching you. Then Mongfa proceeds to project. On Class 1D. Hello everyone, I'm your assistant homeroom teacher and your teacher in English from today with Mishima-sensei. My name is Amelia Irving. Do call me Amelia-sensei from now on. Despite my size, I am an adult you know. Now then, I'll be flashing you the schedules of when I'll be teaching in this class. Then Amelia proceeds to project the schedule. In this part Amelia spoke English in the highlight and slanted font. Then they became popular after just a day of their teaching. Meanwhile, there was still a girl from Class 1D that was looking at Horikita with disgust, jealousy and hatred. Yes, it was Kushida. She can't believe that she was ranked as last for the special mentions in their class last Friday. Now she utterly swears she will get Horikita expelled from this school.